U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has again warned that the U.S. government is hurtling towards an unprecedented government default in about 2 weeks' time.
The U.S. national debt has surpassed a staggering $36.1 trillion, and time is running out. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warns that without immediate congressional action, the nation faces an unprecedented default. This isn't just politics. It's your retirement, mortgage, and essential services like Social Security at risk. The economic fallout could be catastrophic. Stay with us to find out what you must do before it's too late. The debt ceiling is essentially the U.S. government's borrowing limit. Think of it like a credit card limit for the nation. It's the maximum amount the government can borrow to cover its existing financial obligations, including Social Security payments, Medicare, military salaries, and interest on the national debt. Currently, this limit stands at $36.1 trillion, and we've already hit it. But here's the issue. Unlike individuals who can cut back on spending, the government can't simply stop paying its bills. These are commitments already made, meaning millions of Americans rely on these funds every day. However, Congress remains in a political standoff, delaying any decision to raise or suspend the limit, which puts the entire economy at risk. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has been sounding the alarm for months, warning that if Congress doesn't act, the consequences will be severe. If the debt ceiling is not raised, the U.S. will default on its obligations for the first time in history, and this would result in economic and financial catastrophe. Such a default could mean delayed Social Security checks, skyrocketing mortgage rates, and a potential stock market crash that could erase years of savings and investments. To put this in perspective, imagine you're running a household and you've maxed out your credit card. Your bills are due: rent, groceries, medical expenses, but you're stuck because your credit limit isn't increased. Yellen has emphasized the urgency, stating, "Waiting until the last minute to act can seriously harm business and consumer confidence." With time running out, the pressure on Congress is mounting, and failure to act could send shockwaves through the economy. On January 17, 2025, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen delivered a stark warning to Congress, announcing that the U.S. would hit its debt limit by January 21st, leaving the government scrambling to avoid a historic default. In response, the Treasury has begun implementing extraordinary measures, temporary financial maneuvers to keep the government running. These measures, however, are only a band-aid solution and will last no later than March 14th, 2025. To put it simply, the government is now forced to make tough choices. One of these emergency actions includes suspending investments in federal employee retirement funds, directly impacting millions of workers who rely on these savings for their future. Additionally, the Treasury will begin prioritizing payments, meaning that while some critical programs may continue, others, such as Social Security and veterans benefits, could face severe delays or even cuts. Janet Yellen has repeatedly emphasized the seriousness of the situation, stating, "If Congress fails to act, it would cause irreparable harm to the U.S. economy and to the livelihoods of millions of Americans." She warns that even the perception of risk could lead to higher borrowing costs, market instability, and a potential recession. Think of it like a household budget. Imagine you've maxed out your credit card, but still have bills to pay: your mortgage, utilities, and groceries. You might shuffle money around, delay some payments, and cut back on spending, but sooner or later, you'll hit a wall. That's exactly where the U.S. government is right now, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The U.S. government has never defaulted on its debt before, but experts warn that if it happens, the economic fallout could be devastating. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has repeatedly cautioned that failure to act would lead to a crisis of unprecedented proportions, with consequences that would ripple through every household in America and beyond. One of the most immediate effects would be skyrocketing interest rates. Loans, mortgages, and credit cards could become significantly more expensive as the U.S. credit rating takes a severe hit. Higher borrowing costs would strain household budgets and make it harder for businesses to expand or hire new employees. Yellen warns, defaulting would make our borrowing costs higher for years to come, raising interest payments and worsening our debt burden. A default could also trigger a stock market collapse, wiping out trillions of dollars in savings and retirement accounts. Just the fear of a default in the past has caused market fluctuations, but an actual failure to pay debts could lead to mass sell-offs and financial panic, deeply impacting 401ks and other investment plans. Imagine waking up and seeing half of your hard-earned retirement savings gone overnight. This is the kind of risk the nation faces. The ripple effects wouldn't stop there. Job losses and economic slowdown would follow as businesses that rely on government contracts struggle to survive. Federal employees and contractors may face pay cuts or layoffs, further tightening an already fragile economy. And because the US dollar serves as the world's reserve currency, a default could trigger global instability. Countries that hold US debt, such as China and Japan, could lose confidence, leading to financial turmoil across international markets. Prices for everyday goods could rise sharply as global trade becomes more uncertain. In short, a US default would create a domino effect that impacts everything, from how much you pay for groceries to the security of your retirement savings. The clock is ticking, and without decisive action from Congress, the financial well-being of millions hangs in the balance. Despite the looming financial disaster, Congress remains locked in a bitter standoff over the debt ceiling. One side insists that raising the limit should come with significant spending cuts to curb government expenses, while the other argues for a clean increase with no conditions attached. This deadlock has turned a routine fiscal responsibility into a high-stakes political battle, putting the nation's economy at risk. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has repeatedly stressed that raising the debt ceiling is not about new spending, but about meeting obligations the government has already made. This is not about future budgets or new programs, she emphasized. It's about paying for past decisions made by both parties. The debt ceiling has been raised nearly 80 times since 1960, under both Republican and Democratic administrations. Yet in today's polarized political climate, even the most essential financial obligations have become bargaining chips. Lawmakers are using the threat of default as leverage to push their agendas, with each side blaming the other for the impasse. Imagine running a household where both spouses agree the mortgage needs to be paid, but they refuse to do so until they settle a dispute over future spending. The result? Missed payments, a ruined credit score, and potential foreclosure. That's exactly what's happening in Washington right now, except the stakes are much higher, impacting millions of Americans. Yellen has warned that waiting too long to act could erode confidence in the U.S. financial system and lead to severe market instability. Delaying action until the last minute can cause irreparable damage to business and consumer confidence, she said. With time running out, the pressure on lawmakers to break the deadlock has never been greater. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video. Your support helps us create even better content and reach a wider audience. Let's proceed. If you think the US debt crisis is just another political debate, think again. The consequences of a government default could directly impact your daily life in ways you might not expect. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has warned, every American household will feel the consequences if Congress fails to act. From rising costs to threats to your financial security, the effects could be far-reaching and immediate. If the US defaults, inflation could spiral out of control as confidence in the dollar weakens. Everyday essentials like groceries, gas, and healthcare could become significantly more expensive. Think about how rising prices have already affected your budget. Now imagine that, but worse, with no immediate relief in sight. A default could push the economy into a recession, leading to widespread layoffs, especially in industries that rely on government funding, such as defense, healthcare, and infrastructure. Small businesses that depend on federal contracts might struggle to stay afloat, forcing them to downsize or shut down entirely. Yellen has warned, defaulting on our debt could trigger a recession and destroy millions of jobs. Your 401k, pension, and other investments could take a severe hit as the stock market reacts to the uncertainty. A crash could erase years of hard-earned savings overnight, jeopardizing your plans for a comfortable retirement. Just like in 2008, millions of Americans could see their nest eggs shrink dramatically. Essential programs like Social Security, Medicare, and veterans' benefits could face delays or cuts, leaving millions without crucial support. Imagine waiting for your Social Security check to arrive, only to find out it's been postponed indefinitely due to government gridlock. This crisis is not just about Washington politics, it's about your financial stability, your retirement, and your ability to afford everyday necessities. With time running out, the need for a solution is more urgent than ever. The only way to prevent a financial disaster is for Congress to take swift action, either by raising the debt ceiling or suspending it. Historically, lawmakers have done this nearly 80 times since 1960, but the longer they delay, the greater the risk of financial instability. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has repeatedly urged Congress to act, warning, failure to act would cause severe hardship to American families and harm our global leadership position. While Congress debates, the Treasury is relying on extraordinary measures to keep the government running. These temporary actions, such as suspending investments in federal retirement funds and prioritizing essential payments, are buying time, but only until March 14, 2025. After that, the options run out, and the country could spiral into an economic freefall. Consider this. Imagine your household is running on emergency savings after maxing out your credit cards. You're delaying utility bills and skipping vacations to stay afloat. But without a long-term solution, financial collapse is inevitable. The US is in a similar position, and every passing day without congressional action adds pressure to an already strained economy. Yellen has made it clear that time is not on our side, stating, delaying action until the last minute can seriously undermine consumer and business confidence and erode trust in the creditworthiness of the United States. If Congress fails to act soon, the financial consequences could be irreversible, leading to job losses, stock market turmoil, and delayed government payments affecting millions. The solution is clear, but political disagreements continue to stand in the way. The question now is whether lawmakers will act in time or allow the nation to face the consequences of inaction. While the debt crisis may seem like an issue beyond your control, the truth is, your voice matters. The decisions made in Washington will directly impact your financial future, and staying proactive is the best way to protect yourself and your loved ones. Understanding the debt ceiling crisis and how it affects you is crucial. Follow reliable news sources, financial reports, and updates from the Treasury Department to stay aware of potential impacts on your retirement savings, loan interest rates, and government benefits. Knowledge is power, and being informed will help you make better financial decisions. Your elected officials need to hear from you. Calling or emailing your local representatives and urging them to take action can make a difference. Let them know how a potential default could impact your life, whether it's your job, your retirement savings, or your ability to afford daily expenses. Yellen has stressed, "It is Congress's responsibility to ensure America's full faith and credit is never in doubt." Your voice can encourage lawmakers to prioritize a solution before it's too late. In times of uncertainty, it's wise to be cautious with major financial decisions. Avoid taking on unnecessary debt. Focus on building an emergency fund and consider consulting a financial advisor to protect your assets. Think of it like preparing for a storm. Having a solid financial plan in place can help you weather the uncertainties ahead. This crisis isn't just about politics, it's about your financial well-being. Taking proactive steps now can help safeguard your future and ensure you're prepared for any economic turbulence that may come your way. The U.S. debt crisis is no longer just a political issue. It's a looming financial disaster that could impact every American. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's urgent warning makes one thing clear. Failure to act now could lead to skyrocketing interest rates, delayed Social Security checks, and market turmoil that threatens your savings and investments. Now is the time to stay informed and take action. Like and subscribe for the latest updates on how to protect your finances in these uncertain times. Want deeper insights on the economic challenges ahead? Watch this next. What's coming is worse than a recession. Richard Wolff. Stay tuned for more valuable content.